Oh, I'm live. Here we are, everybody. I have a little bindi right here, a little zip. And this is a video. I'm just going to go right into it because I don't like that there's downtime at the beginning of videos when people watch them. I'm in my car right now. I just finished teaching acro yoga down in, I still don't know where this is, West Hollywood, Los Angeles. And so before I go home, and I might even start the car and be driving a little bit while we're doing this, I wanted to talk about freedom of expression because I had just finished an event with Vince Kelvin and Arash Bazaar, which involves a lot of social dynamics, linguistics, body language, and the state of mind that comes behind like how you're communicating. And then what happened is we go to a social venue, which was the Dream nightclub in downtown Los Angeles, Hollywood. So it's a very high-class place, a lot of beautiful people there, a lot of money, and it was a lot of exclusivity. Somehow, luckily, I guess, Arash, who is one of my teachers, ran into the guy that manages the whole chain of Dream hotels across the world. So a pretty high-level guy, and he just gets us through security. So we pass all these beautiful people. It was, really wonderful. Go up to the roof, and freedom of expression. There's a lot of doubt or concern about the outcome of an expression, like, will this get me what I want? And which is a clue. That's a clue that you're communicating in a way to get what you want, which is justified. That's what its communication is for. So don't deny that aspect that all animals, you included, are communicating to get what you want. Whether that's you want them to understand your idea, you want them to do what you're asking them to do, or whatever. You want them to stop doing what they're doing. And so, but we want a freedom, meaning that there's less filter between what you're internally, that you have this like urge, or you want to say something, and then what comes out as something different. And I talked about this, I think, on Friday. I have a podcast on Fridays. I think that's where I said it. I talked to a lot of people about this, I forget, but it was the question of an affirmation or an intention before you do something. Maybe he was asking about pickup or yoga or something. Anyway, the intention should be spoken out loud, just like when you're learning a mantra, a new mantra, which is like a repeated statement in Sanskrit. And when you learn it, you say it out loud, and it slowly starts to quiet. It becomes more quiet, more subtle, softer, just like when you learn the Ujjayi breath, which is like the breath of sound. That was horrible, I'm a little congested. But so it's a deep resonant sound in the base of your throat. And in the beginning, it's a big effort, and so it sounds like you're snoring almost, but it becomes softer and softer. And Ujjayi doesn't actually need to make a sound. It's almost like the breath of feeling rather than the breath of sound. You can feel the Ujjayi around the glottis. So back to freedom of expression, that when you're having an intention or an affirmation when you're doing something, like I use affirmations a lot in two situations. One, when I'm eating, when I'm about to eat something, and two, when I'm about to take a cold shower. And you have to feel the affirmation really, really deeply as you're saying it. When you start to experience the affirmation of the word deeply, that's when it will start to quiet, and you can repeat the affirmation without saying it out loud. Okay? So, because what would happen is you'll keep the affirmation, but then if you were to say it out loud, it would come out differently than what you're hearing in your head. And that's because you're simultaneously entertaining and holding other thoughts. So if you don't say the affirmation or intention out loud, you're allowing some of your mental power, your capacity of mind, to be occupied by other thoughts. And they're often in conflict. Obviously, that's why we have the affirmations, because we're doing something that we want to change. So this comes into freedom of expression, because a lot of times we're thinking about the outcome that we want, and we're communicating in a way that is directed towards that outcome, but it's slightly inhibited, or it's slightly distorted, because we don't want to cross boundaries, and the boundaries haven't necessarily been clarified to us yet. One of the scary things to do when you do your yoga practice is do it blindfolded. And you can even maybe not do a yoga practice. You can just, there is a suggestion for I think it's for the Manipura chakra. One of your chakras is greatly affected by this particular exercise, which is blindfold yourself and walk around your house. And freedom of expression. It was for the throat chakra. And you walk as slow as you need to. If you want to shuffle your feet, be on hands and knees, keep your hands in front so you don't like run into things. But there's a fear, because, and there should be. What if you kick something? If you've ever kicked something when you didn't think there was something there, it hurts. And a lot more than if you kicked it harder than that, but you knew it was there. And so in our freedom of expression, we're afraid of that outcome in relationships, with people that we're just meeting, with business, employees, employers, teachers, family. And so how do we free it up? We just got to free it up. One of the ways is just keep talking. You keep talking, because you're not going to be able to re-navigate, to readjust, to steer the conversation back towards where you want it to be, comfort, and then whatever the meat of your conversation is. You can't readjust it back towards that without saying more. So you say one thing, you come out with it, and if it didn't come out the way you wanted it to, then readjust. Add some more words. That's the beauty of the words, is you can just keep refining. On some level, you could never be totally right on the level of words, because there's always somebody with a mastery of words that could kind of pick it apart a little bit. There's so many little vagaries in words. So there's always a little bit of wiggle room, unless you're in like law. Even then there's wiggle room. That's why we have lawyers. So you keep talking. And I actually learned this lesson from H.T. Odom years ago, who was my academic grandfather. And he said the way to bring families together, because he had like a few step kids and so on, was you just keep talking. Don't stop. Okay, another way, let me think about this. Freedom of expression. Another way is also grounding in a very physical sense, and I learned this from Marashti Bazaar, is touching your environment. As you're in an environment, a way to get out of your head is to touch many different objects, physically touch. You could do that, like I like to be barefoot, but some places, I couldn't be barefoot in the nightclub last night. So touch things. Touch the furniture, touch the wall, touch, and not in a weird, creepy, like I'm on ecstasy kind of, it feels so good, but just like touch it. Be like, oh yeah, this is steering wheel, and it feels like leather. And it's like, oh, this is some fabric. I don't know what that is, like polyester. This is cotton. And some beads here. Maybe touch myself. And just the act of touching many different things will get you out of your head and into your senses, which is where the present moment's happening. And that'll get you out of these thoughts, out of these negative loops, and there'll be more ease. And from ease is where freedom of expression happens. Freedom of expression isn't happening from tension. It's not forced. If it's forced, it might sound free, but what it really is just more intense, louder. Maybe there's a bigger range or a different pitch, but it's limited by the energy and the emotion of that force, because anger is not as free as freedom. Joy isn't as free as freedom, but it's closer, because joy is a very expansive feeling. Anger is a very honed feeling. Sadness is a very contracted feeling. And so maybe even start to think of emotion. So this will be the last thing I say, and then if you have any questions, go ahead and type them. I don't know if anything's been typed. Is to really think about emotions in that duality of expansion, contraction. There is such a thing as stagnation, but because the universe is so dynamic, the stagnation very quickly becomes a contraction. So I don't really find it useful to think of stagnation. So your emotional state is either in expansion or contraction, always. It's in one of these two. And to think about, so like if I say like anger, for example, is a honing, that's a kind of contraction. It's not a dissipating, because anger is very, very powerful. It's like turning it into a laser beam. Joy is a lot like a light bulb. Anger is kind of like a laser beam. There is a contraction there, because the laser beam does not light up the whole room. And so there's a lot of information in your mind you're not able to access when you're angry, because your awareness is very honed. Sadness is a contraction. There's very little light getting into the regions of your mind. Joy is very bright, but at the same time, it's also very spread. Because of that, you might not see the depths of your mind. So joy isn't necessarily the best emotion to be doing like very analytical things. If I was doing my engineering calculations, joy could be a distraction. There are other things that are better expressions of joy. But you know, sometimes analytics got to get done. So start to think about emotions, the wording of emotions of, is this an expansion word? Is this a contraction word? To get out of those words, touch many objects in your environment, wherever you are, especially when you get to a new environment, and keep talking. You know, keep talking. The first things that I say are often very nonchalant, and it's very good and safe for the mind to learn that you can say things and that doesn't oblige you in any way. There's no social obligation to do or be anything because you said something. You know, for example, I say hi to a lot of people, that doesn't become a conversation. You know, and there are a lot of people that I say hi to that don't say hi back. And if I had expected it to become a conversation, then I would have become disappointed when they didn't say hi back. So you need to be able to throw out words. And this is with new people. So if this is like, if you have older relationships, let's say someone in your family, there are similarities. You need to be able to express an idea and be unreliant on their input about the idea. There needs to be a self-sufficiency about it. You're saying it because it makes you feel good to say it. You like hearing yourself say it. You like expressing yourself, but there's no need to seek acceptance or anything. All right, I think you guys get the point. That's the end of freedom of expression. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them now. Basically, in summary, you know, I recapped a story about going to Dream Hotel here in Los Angeles, and you just keep talking. You say something, throw it out there, and then you just keep talking. You can keep modifying, keep adapting. Notice your emotions and start to really think of them in terms of expansion or contraction, or any little refinements of that terminology, like the honing of anger. And what was the last thing I said? There was another point. You can go back and watch the video. I'm sure the point is there. So I'll give you a second if you have any questions or comments. This has been an especially powerful weekend for me. I'm excited to get a little bit of sleep tonight and return to my cyclic fasting tomorrow. I mean, it was 15 hours of fasting for the last 2 days, but that's, you know, that's nothing. So I'll feast tonight, and then tomorrow we'll return to the schedule. Basically, the schedule of cyclic fasting, as I learned from Dr. Amin Ra, which is just a guy on YouTube. But, you know, I don't just learn from chumps. This guy is very well-spoken, well-educated. It's basically, as soon as you wake up, as quickly as you can, do something aerobic, which for me is just walking up and down the hill where I live. And before you break fast in the evening, it's important to get in a resistance training, something that like weightlifting, or I like to do my handstand training or my yoga practice. And meditation is useful. And then the first thing that enters the body should be something very, very nutrient rich, which for me would be a salad, because I'm not eating meat. Meat would be very nutrient rich. And then I basically eat whatever I want, but I'm looking for kind of less carbs, more fats and proteins. So I eat a lot of nuts, avocados, put a lot of oil in my salad, peanut butter, and I don't have the most diverse diet, but that's the new thing that I'm working with. And as I refine it more and more, I'll share that with you all. So I see there was like a thumbs up or something about my message. Show. How do I? There it is. Okay. All right. Namaste, everyone. So what is today? Sunday? Tomorrow, Monday, will be the silent flute lecture, which is going to be very, very powerful. We're going to continue where we left off last week, which these are recorded lectures. So when you sign up, then I give you the Google Drive link that you can watch past lectures. And we're continuing with the 10 chakra system and integrating some of the new Yoga Sutras concepts that I have become more aware of. And we'll bring that into the whole concept. And then we're going to refine our pranayama practice. So last week I think I gave two or three different pranayama that were not included in Ashtanga primary series pranayama. I can't guarantee it I won't cover those. I'll probably cover those at some point in the silent flute, but that's really a standalone product that has a lot of, it's very comprehensive. So in both of those cases, you go to the 9th limb, and under the silent flute tab is the silent flute program, or under the products tab is the Ashtanga primary series pranayama. And definitely tune in on Friday's free podcast. You call in, talk with us, and that's with me and Arash Zapard Bazaar. The plan is this week, Vince Kelvin. He had to record a music video last week, so who could blame him? But this week I'll have Vince on, and so it'll be more and more powerful linguistics. And I really appreciate you all watching, and namaste.